Hey, rookies, and welcome back to the Rookie Farmer Podcast. This is the home of the dreamers, the schemers, and the hustlers here in the world of small scale agriculture. If you are new to the show, I'm your host, Alec. I am the grower here at Crop Culture Farm in New Bern, Georgia. Now, one of the things that many of us new growers or even experienced growers deal with is the thousands of different ways that we can sell our produce. Are you going to be a market farmer? Are you going to sell wholesale? Are you going to do a CSA? You're going to sell off of the farm, all of these different things. And one of those other decisions that you have to make as well is what sort of a platform or sales funnel am I going to use to sell the stuff off of my farm? And there are lots of different services that cost lots of different prices out there. Well, today on the show, we answer some of those questions for you. We sit down with Eric Sannerud of Grown By. Now, Grown By is a cooperatively farmer owned platform that is built by farmers for farmers to help us sell the goods that we're producing here on our farms. It has an app, it has a e-commerce based site, and it has a point of sale all rolled into one that is coming later this year. And there is that and so much more that we handle in this episode. Eric and I really get into the nitty gritty on sort of the philosophy about small local agriculture and how we can all work together and how the businesses that we use in our business can also reflect the values that we have as growers. But like I said, sit down. This is going to be a bit of a long one, but we get into some really great stuff with Eric. So let's sit down and talk with Eric Sannerud of Grown By. All right, Eric, thank you so much for sitting down, man. We've corresponded a little bit over the last couple of years. You were the first point of contact with Grown By that I had. I think we were talking just maybe a couple years ago when I first joined with you guys. But for everybody listening at home, give us a little bit of intro to who you are and what Grown By is.
Yeah, hey everyone, I'm Eric Sannerud. I am the Director of Accounts and Partnerships at Grown By. We're a farmer-owned cooperative. We're an e-commerce platform and software to support direct marketing farmers of all shapes, sizes, and types.
Cool. And you yourself are a farmer, correct?
That's right. Yeah, my wife and I farm in Malacca, Minnesota, which is kind of central Minnesota. And what we sell off the farm is cut flowers. We're a flower farm.
Gotcha. And I think are you still doing the goats? I remember.
Yeah, we do our own home small goat dairy, and in my past farming lives, I was a commercial hop farmer as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm wearing a Ithaca Beer
Very
Company
nice.
shirt in honor of a conversation. I was like, yeah, I'll put on the brewery T-shirt
Yeah, I
for Eric.
still love hops and beer, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess before we really get into it, how do you manage to balance the life of like both running a farm and then also kind of working for a like farm adjacent company?
Honestly, working for a farm adjacent company is maybe one of the best, so it's remote work and everyone on the farmer team, which is our word for like the folks that work directly with farmers, we all farm or have farming experience. And so everyone understands when it's like, hey, the goats are out. And like you
Mhm.
just leave the meeting.
Yeah.
Or like everyone knows that like, hey, I mean, right now for everyone is this crazy time. And so, we all do our best to balance work and farming. And I think it's very awesome. I don't know, that's awesome something or whatever. It's just so it's so real to work for a farmer owned cooperative and have your identity as a farmer be welcome and understood in that space. And I think that it's a great place to work. I'm also a member owner, so it's a great place to own. And it's easier to balance with a remote job and with people who understand what it means to farm.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into it in a minute. Kind of sort of you mentioned being like a member owner, a farmer owner, and kind of with the whole cooperative thing you guys got going on. But can you give me like maybe a little bit more in depth explanation? Obviously, you don't need to give it to me. I guess I should say right off the bat that for everyone who's listening or watching, I actually use Grown By. So I think we're in our second season of using it. And I've really appreciated having the kind of the online platform to be able to sell our produce and the various different farm products that we have. But with that being said, can you kind of give us a little bit more in-depth description of like what Grown By is specifically?
Yeah, so GrowBuy is a e-commerce software platform. So it's a website, it's an app where farmers go to sell their stuff. You make your own store on the app and you list what you have to grow and sell or what you have for sale. And then you send that link to your customers and use that link as your e-commerce link, in your social media stuff, as a QR code at your farmers market stand, however you get the word out there to your customers. And it's a great e-commerce platform, but built for farmers and by farmers. So, I mean, I've had a farm website on like a Squarespace or whatever,
Mhm,
and it can do it. Like people could go there and buy things from my farm, but I was like hacking the system all the time, and it certainly wasn't like built to support CSAs. It certainly wasn't built to support like in-person fulfillment methods. Like, most generic e-commerce on the internet is built to be like, I sell t-shirts, so like this will just like drop ship to you
mhm.
whenever you order it and blah blah blah. And it's sort of designed around a non-personal exchange and certainly not designed around like as much of a values-based purchase as buying local food can be. So I don't I mean I could go on and on, but that's maybe a nice overview.
No, yeah, yeah. You mentioned Squarespace and trying to do that. I did that at first. Like, yeah, let's try to hack the system. Any farmer that has like set up at a farmer's market has probably used Square as like a point of sale. And I think they still have it. I haven't looked at it in a while, but I think they had like a free or like a freemium version of like a e-commerce website that you can build based upon your kind of your Square point of sale. And I had heard people mention that like they can use that to like sell, either like kind of pre-order things that pick up at the market or so on and so forth. And I was like, "Oh, cool. Let me sit down and look at it and realize like this is not what this is made for. Like this
Yeah.
is yeah, like you said, it's you order it online, it's like a hard good or something, and then you just kind of ship it out to anywhere in the country or the world. It's not really designed for that. And so but I think with that being said, there's like you guys are not reinventing the wheel here. Like you're not the first people to have like a farm-based e-commerce site. And there's quite a few out there now. Kind of, but like what really differentiates Grown By from like some of your, I'd hate to say competitors, but some of the other people in that space?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I would say competitors exactly either. I mean, it's just there are a lot of platforms and softwares offering support to farmers, and I think that, in general, farmers would be wise to be skeptical of them just because, I mean, I've been farming for 13 years, and I have not found many that I would, like, recommend a friend use
Mhm,
or that I found personal value in, like, for my farm. I think that there's this huge gulf of understanding between, like, where the money and ideas come from for, like, tech solutions and, like, direct marketing farms. It's very different lifestyles, very different types of people, very different ideas of what business means and profit means and a good life means. I mean, there's this huge gulf, but it is not always true, and, there are people who bridge that gulf quite well. But one of the things that separates Grown By from other sales and farm softwares out there is it all starts with the fact that we're a co-op and we're farmer owned. Like, we're actually more on the side of the gulf of, like, farmers
mhm.
than we are the side of, like, business tech startup stuff. We are farmers and this is our co-op, and it can be other users, other farmers can join too. It can be your co-op also. And that is where all of the differentiators come from. Because, like, ultimately, to your point, the vast majority of farm platforms have very similar features, like support CSA, support point of sale, support pre-ordering, support, out of the we all kind of get these similar outcomes in maybe different ways, and there's like very different specific features or details of how things work, but, like, ultimately, we offer similar features, and what I wish we can get into this too, but what I wish, like, we should talk about, like, what to think about when you're considering an e-commerce platform or, like, software for supporting your farm. But, like, talking to farms who are thinking about getting going or people who are thinking about starting farming, like, just like you think about maybe you think about, like, "Well, what kind of soil type do I want?" Or, "What kind of tractor would I get?" You should also be thinking about what software platform or e-commerce platform do I wanna be using, because that can be just as important as the decision in planning your farm as some of those other things that we think of more traditionally in this world that is very focused on internet existence.
Yeah, I definitely want to back up because you mentioned like being farmer owned. And what you don't mean is that, like, the owner of the company is also a farmer. But
Correct.
yeah, that,
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of that stuff out there. That's some marketing. Whenever I see anyone that's, like, specifically farmer-owned, because again, I'm a skeptic because 'cause I'm a farmer. I'm just like, well, you could have, like that is not a legal commentary at all. You could be farmer-owned and, like, 0.01% of your company is owned by someone who,
who's a
like, is a
farmer, yeah.
farmer,
Yeah.
and, like, that's still farmer-owned, and, yeah, that gets a lot of mileage out there. No, we are 100%. We are a cooperative, and we are only owned by our farmers and a much smaller percentage by member owners, with staff.
Mhm,
So we're two people who are familiar with cooperatives. We're a multi-stakeholder co-op is the word for it. And the vast majority and forever the majority of ownership of the co-op is farmers. Those are farmers who use the Grown By platform. And then minority of ownership is staff members
mhm.
who work at Grown By.
Yeah, so, like, not only is it, and I guess, I mean, it's sort of the definition of a cooperative in a lot of ways, but it's like the people who are using and benefiting from the company and the work that the company's doing are the people who, yeah, have the majority stake in it. It's not,
Yep. I mean, we have the entire stake in it.
yeah, yeah, and so, and I know for me, that's been, like, a big shift with the little bit of interaction I've had with folks from some of those other companies, or conversations I've had with other farmers about it, or just the lack of conversation because it's like a huge, m national or international corporation, like, Square is.
Right.
Um, it
We were trying to fix something on a Square site recently, and you can't actually email someone. You
oh, wow.
cannot you cannot reach anyone. You can talk to a chat bot who, like, sends you to support desk articles, basically,
Yeah.
or you can look at support desk articles yourself, but there's no human interaction. Obviously, that costs money for them, and they're trying to make as much money as they can, so, you know, get rid of that part. But, yeah, I shouldn't have interrupted you, but it's just crazy. I mean, it's crazy, like, it's crazy to me that the larger a thing gets, especially that, so as a cooperative, part of what you're getting at is like we feed ourselves. Our main objective is not to go out here and get as much freaking money as we can so that like we can whoever owns us can get like a seventh yacht or something. Like our objective is to produce the best value for ourselves and our
Mhm,
other fellow member owners and users of the platform. So that means like balancing, what people are getting and what they're paying instead of being like, how do I minimize what people get and maximize what they pay? Because that's what you do if you're like if it was just Eric's company and Eric was, a modern day corporate type trying to maximize my own interests, that's what I would do, right? But we're cooperative, and the way we're structured as a cooperative is that's how we act. I mean, it bothers me how much of my life I need to spend money at places that are not cooperatives where, as well-meaning as they are or not, as mom and poppy as they try to appear, like, I know at the end of the day, like, I don't know, probably someone who doesn't need my money is making a lot of money off this, whereas the person who's, like, providing the service to me or the person who, like, delivered the goods to my door or whatever is not making a good share. That's just the system we live in, but just I co-ops are such a powerful way to
mhm.
like have, capitalism and business that still has like values to it or just has the ability to not be just incredibly extractive.
Yeah, and I think, being a farmer, but I think even on top of that, like, shoot, we could have a whole conversation on, like, what does it mean to be a farmer? Uh,
Yeah.
but, that kinda goes back to that whole, like, we're farmer owned. Like, okay, so, like, what does that mean? Like, you own the land that they've pulled, maybe there's some, like, cows on it or whatever. But anyways, I digress.
You own the
But
land that you rent to the guy who does the actual
yeah,
farming.
yeah,
That's a
yeah, yeah,
classic one.
and you wear a cowboy hat, and so therefore you're a
Hey.
farmer. But, not only just being a farmer, but I would say the majority of the people, at least those I've interacted with, that it's like, we're all, like, small farmers. We're,
Oh yeah.
like, independent operations, on, like, relatively small acreage, and so but with that, like, we are sort of constantly connecting with other companies or other entities that are cooperative or nonprofit or small family owned or woman owned or minority owned, like this industry that we're a part of, it's so small scale and it's so collaborative and cooperative, and what I really love is that it's like that this is just another piece of that we can add to that. So it's like, I know, Johnny's is worker owned. So like that's really amazing, and companies like Modern Grower, where you can get all your tools and stuff, like it's very transparent about, kind of who owns it and what's the mission behind it. when the owner of the company puts out like multiple podcasts a week, like you kind of know where he's coming from, in tons of other businesses where, like even your local farmers market, like, all right,
Mhm.
kind of who's on the board of directors, like, who the people are. It's very transparent. And so for your kind of e-commerce platform to sort of fit that same sensibility, same ideology that you have, even regardless of just the service that's provided, but just to know that it's like, it really creates that sense of like camaraderie, like we're all in this together. We all have the same mission and the same goal that is not necessarily like, yeah, bottom line, make the most profit that we can, but it's more about creating a sense of sustainability, regenerating both the land, our health, our families, our culture, our economy, all of these sort of things. And so I know for me, and maybe eventually we'll actually get into the nuts and bolts of what the actual platform does and kind of how it works. But just here on the front end, yeah, like I think it's so important that we're working and supporting companies that are like have those same ideologies that we do.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I could keep going on values and things, but that's the number one thing that makes Grown by different is like we're a co-op.
Mhm.
We're a co-op. We're farmer-owned co-op. It all starts there, and like the features we have and how we handle pricing and how we handle customer support and how we are continuing to improve and invest in and improving our platform and the services and the features. Like these things would be so different if we weren't a co-op. Like, we'd
Yeah.
have different choices that would be the calculus would be different. We'd be sitting over here being like, "Well, heck, why would we invest in being the first platform to accept Snap Online and do all this, like, unfunded, extremely difficult work, like, dealing with, like, bureaucrats on one side, and, like, why would we do that? Like, where's the money in that?" And it's like, well, we did that because it was the right thing to do, and it aligns with what we're trying to do and we want our platform to be and the food system we wanna see, I mean, all these things, and so we did it, and it's turned out great for us, but, like, we didn't do it out of some math of, like, increasing quarterly earnings and, getting your bonus or whatever, it's just so much of the world works like that, and, I'm lucky not to work at a place that works like that.
Yeah. So on the practical side of things, we've mentioned
Mhm.
sort of e-commerce, but for people who maybe they're unfamiliar with sort of the e-commerce side of like small scale, like local food, I think most people that, think of e-commerce, you think of Amazon, you think of some Shopify site where you can go and you order something and then UPS or the postal service, delivers it to your house. But that is like not at all what this system is that you guys have built. And so kind of what does e-commerce look like for kind of the small local farm?
Yeah, that's a great way of asking that question. It's different in the ways it has to be because of the fulfillment method.
Mm,
So, Grown by doesn't touch I always like to say Grown by doesn't touch your stuff. Grown by doesn't come pick up your carrots and drive them to the city. Grow doesn't aggregate carrots from everybody and like makes a big carrot order. There's other organizations and groups that do that, right? Grown by is a platform to make it easier for direct marketing farmers. That's like a USDA term, a DMF, direct marketing farm, which is someone who sells direct to customers, whether that's through a CSA or a farmer's market or farm stand or whatever. We exist to make that transaction easier for your customer and easier for you to manage on the front end and back end. So, the point of distribution, it's like, hey, if you deliver to whatever zip codes near you on Tuesdays from 3 to 6, that's what you put into Grown By. And then customers see that as an option. And if you have farmers market pickups on Saturdays from 10 to 1, that's another thing you put into Grown By. Customers see that when they're choosing their options for how they're getting your carrots or your broccoli or your beef or your whatever. So, in the same ways that Squarespace is set up to like around this idea of shipping everything anywhere in the world, Grown By is built up around this idea of, well, farms don't often ship things, but you can do shipping on Grown By. But like here, we're built around the ideas of how people get local food, right? We all do that. You pick up at the farmer's market, you pick them up at the farm stand, you buy them at farmer's market, you sign up for a CSA, they get delivered to your home, by the farmer usually, so that's how
yeah.
it works.
You don't have to give me exact numbers, obviously, but like what sort of a breakdown is it between like people who are doing kind of more what I've used it for, sort of like a la carte, sort of like people order and then we have pickup locations versus people that are using the platform for like full blown, CSA. It's all sort of standardized and it just like it's a well-oiled machine versus like people who are using it just as a way to maybe like pre-sell things to take to the farmer's market.
I don't know the exact breakdown. There's about 300 pharmacies grown by across United States and now Canada. So I don't know the breakdown, but I mean it's a great mix. I mean, there's people who only use grown by for, 2-week a year plant sales.
Hmm.
Um, right, there's people who use grown by for pre-orders at farmers markets, people do pickup model, there's people who do CSA, there's people who do everything in between. There's people using it for dairy and milk sales. I mean, that's a whole different sort of like way of selling than produce or freezer meat or flowers. So grown by is very flexible and supports a lot of different types of distribution models for farms.
And I guess just to kind of add some color to that, sort of the way that we settled on using it because we're a predominantly a farmers market farm. We do
Mhm,
some restaurant sales, but starting last year, we're predominantly selling at farmers markets, and we don't, really didn't have the infrastructure to do a lot of like on farm sales, so to speak, like people coming and
mhm.
picking up like a farm stand. And frankly, as a first year farmer last year, the idea of doing a CSA felt
A
like
tough place to start, yeah,
yeah, for sure. It felt really scary in the sense of like, oh my God, whether I went with the kind of pre-selling the shares, that model, that really scared me. But even just the idea of like having people like, reoccurring week after week, it was nice to be able to just like take what I had and just like hope that I could sell it. But what we found is like last year, it really came in handy when sales sort of started slumping at the market for a myriad of different reasons,
mhm,
but to be able to use that avenue to then be like, hey, like give us your email and we'll add you to our email list. And we're sending out weekly newsletters. And it had like, here's all of the things that we're harvesting this week. And we did like a weekly, veg box. And then, right there in the MailChimp like newsletter, it would just, you'd hit like buy now and it would just
yep,
embed the link to our Grown By site. And then boom, and then people could order a box, people could just like order stuff that they wanted, especially for those really popular items. Like one thing that we sell a lot of and we manage to usually sell out pretty quickly is things like broccolini or carrots.
sure,
And so and there's always the people that show up to market and they're like, "Oh man, I missed it again." It's like, well, you know, I keep telling you if you're going to get here at 11,
right,
they're going to be sold out by 10. Like you got to come early, but at the same time you also don't want to like throw stuff behind the table and like save it
right,
for customers and do that. And so it was a really good way to be like, "Hey, if you want this, like go ahead and pre-order what you want and basically prepay for it. So you buy it and you've
yep,
purchased it, it's yours, and then I have it waiting for you." And so that was one of the ways that we use it. And then also just doing sort of weekly pickup in town where I could sort of have like a common place to meet our customers because we didn't really have the infrastructure to support people coming out on the farm, mostly because, we were primarily part-time last year. So I wasn't on the farm every
mhm,
day. So to just have to, trying to service a farm stand when you might only be at the farm every couple of days, it was a really easy way to do that. But yeah, I mean, from the digging that I've done, there's like 1,000 different ways that you can sort of utilize the platform to sell. Like I said, with the CSA, and I think you mentioned earlier, and I think I've sort of noodled with it a little bit, but like now you can actually incorporate shipping. So if you had something that was, I guess sturdy enough or stable enough to be able to handle actual shipping, you can send stuff kind of theoretically, I guess, anywhere, correct?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you can do shipping or delivery as well as pickup on grown by. You hit on a lot of the things. I mean, I think that if I were a beginning farmer and I was thinking about how I sell, it is so important right now. People have such a low attention span when they're scrolling their phone and they're also just busy. Like, make it easy for them to support you. And the way you
Mm,
do that is you have a great e-commerce space that is easy for them to use, that like is comfortable, that is modern. I mean, one of the things that some farm e-commerce platforms struggle with is that they're not modern at all. Like half of them look like a danced up Excel spreadsheet, and it's like, fine, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, except your customer expects to be sexy, smooth, modern.
mhm,
Like they just got done shopping on Amazon or wherever for like their boutique, like I don't know, knife sharpening something, and like that website was super sexy, and like now they're gonna go to your thing and it's gonna be clunky, and you'll be like, wait, I can't figure this out. Like, what does this mean? Why is it all red? Like, what's happening? I just think that having a button that they click, they say what you are, they see what you have, they want to support it, they want to buy your carrots. That between them wanting to buy a carrot And, like, being able to buy a carrot needs to be a short path. I don't know. Think about it as a farmer nowadays.
Yeah, and the ability to, like, create an account so that your payment information is saved. So
Yeah.
then, yeah, like, it's obviously, you don't wanna, like, take advantage or kind of weaponize our desire for convenience, but at the same time, you wanna make things, like, convenient and easy
We
as
gotta meet people
possible.
where they're at. I mean, look,
Yeah, for sure.
I'm as anti-tech and what's it called? A Luddite?
Yeah,
Is that, like, the word?
yeah.
I'm as much that as, like, I mean, look, don't get me started on AI or, all this stuff. You've already heard some of what I think about a lot of this, but, like, from a local food access
Mhm,
perspective, from a perspective of, like, thriving local farms, we can't solely rely on word of mouth, Facebook posts, and, like, showing up at farmers market to not only build farm income that can justify the amount of work you're about to do, but also that only reaches a small percentage
mhm.
of people, and we would like local food to be reaching a larger percentage of people. It's something like 80% of folks under, I don't know, 30, 25. I don't know where the generational break is right now, but, like, do all of their grocery shopping online, and then, like, they'll
Wow.
pick it up or it gets delivered to them. So, like, we are missing significant portions of the American grocery shopping eating public, which is everyone, by forcing them to come to our special little rituals called farmers markets, or, like, sign up on janky old websites, or, like, find our .netscape, page, and, like,
Yeah.
try to sign up for our CSA. And, like, this is not me deriding any of that. I look, I wish the world was simpler, and,
Mhm.
like, honestly, some days I wish the internet doesn't exist, but that's a different conversation. But, like, just to the point of view, like, I'm not here being like, tech is the only thing that matters and everything has to be tech. I just think that for local food, we need to meet customers where they're at. We're never going to be as convenient as Amazon because there's a lot of convenience built into that system at great cost to a lot of other things. But we can do small things to meet customers more where they're at.
And so to be able to, like, yeah, make it convenient for people and give them a similar shopping experience to what they're gonna get with every other aspect of their life, but it
What they're
for
used to, what they expect,
yeah,
frankly. I mean,
but for it to
there's only
be,
so
like,
many people who are gonna go
local.
out of their way to do crazy local buying stuff, right? And you
Yeah,
and I are probably some of them, and most farmers are probably some of them, so we get in our own little
mhm,
echo chambers about it, but, like, we need more people buying local food.
yeah. Yeah, and so it's like if you've been I'll use an example from another farm that I've worked with. They're like a grass-fed, like, cattle operation who and then has partnered with
Cool.
another farm that's further away to do, raw dairy for pet consumption. So it's like you have to call the owner of the farm, give them your order, and then you have to wait like 2 weeks, and then they have to drive up to the farm, pick it up, bring it back. Then I have to drive 45 minutes to the other farm, pick it up, pay cash, and then grab it and then bring it home. Like, there's all of these, like, steps of this, like, antiquated process of trying to get, like, the best, freshest, like, local food for my family. And, as opposed to being like, "Oh, yeah, like, go to our Instagram page and click the link." And then
And like you and
boom.
I, like, I would do that too. Like, we really
Yeah.
heavily prioritize the food that we get. We're
Mhm.
able to very heavily prioritize the food we get. Like, we're able to make that, investment of time and gas and whatever to go do this stuff. But, like, again, like, local food doesn't get to grow if, like, participating in local food means you have to be able to make that investment, have to want to be able to make that investment. That could still exist. Like, not everyone else that we don't have to get rid of farmers markets. We just need to expand
Mhm.
our relevant audience, the number of people who can interact with and purchase our goods.
Yeah, and I think most folks, like, I don't know. I mean, I love going to the farmer's market. Like, I
Yeah,
love
me too.
that sort of that energy, the vibe.
Yeah.
I'm a more extroverted person, so I feel like I really excel in a market. But if it was like if you had sort of red pill, blue pill, where it's like you can go to farmers markets every Saturday for the rest of your life, or you can, like, have your Saturdays off and have people come to you. What sounds better to you? And
Yeah, I
so I
think
feel
there
like
is also benefit to farmers here. Like, if you're building your business plan, like, we sell a lot of our flowers at market and it's part of what we do and we like it. And also it's like there's a number of times a year where it's like, boy, it sure would be nice to, like, not lose every Saturday to market prep and every Sunday to markets. Like,
yeah,
what
and
if we had a business model, like a distribution model where we didn't need to stand at some booth, rain or shine, hot or not, nobody there or not, every Sunday for the whole summer.
yeah, and 2 real life examples of how I've utilized it is last year we had a market get rained out. We're at a rain or shine market now. granted, we're under pavilion, that makes it a lot easier, but we had a market get rained out, like literally they made the call Friday evening. So it's like everything was picked, everything's in the cooler, ready to go. And then it's like, hey, there's no farmer's market tomorrow. So then I can like get on social media, I can send out an email, I can do all of my ways of like touching my customers that I can and say, hey, you're not going to be able to buy those things this week that you were planning on getting because you're a loyal valued customer. So it's like go to the link. Some people, it'd be like the very first time you've never used it before, or maybe you're a regular, customer of ours through our Grown By site. But it's like go to the link, all of the stuff that you're going to get. Like I can still reach you even if it's not at the farmer's market. And so we were able to
Mhm.
use the site to sort of adapt and pivot even on like a week to week basis to be able to like not only still fulfill our customers' needs and the things that they want because they also care about like fresh, local, healthy food for their family, but also it's like to ensure that we don't have a week's worth of harvest that's just gonna hopefully not go bad in the cooler. And so like we were able to use it and pivot and do that. Or what we did over the winter coming into fall, we really made a big push to say like, hey guys, like we're not going to be here every Saturday. Like we're coming to the end of the season, but we're still selling. Like we're down here in the South, like we don't really have to take a break. We're still going to have stuff. And frankly, as a new farm, like we need those sales even through the winter months. We don't have enough sales and savings built up to kind of carry us through the winter
Mhm.
months. And so, it was a way to kind of keep those sales rolling by just moving people from farmers market over to the Grown By site, even if it's just for a few months, and then they can kind of go back to their regular purchasing habits. And so there's a lot of really unique ways to use it. Not to say that like it's good as a backup plan, but it's like, but yeah, like we've had a lot of
Yeah.
success using it just as like a backup to our standard sales outlets. But I imagine there's a lot of people that are using it as like their main, like, yeah, they're running their whole CSA through Grown By.
Yep.
And what really sort of differentiates, running a CSA through Grown By versus just trying to do it with a spreadsheet and text messages and emails or using another service? Like what really is different with you guys?
I can't imagine running it. I had a CSA the first year that I grew, a small veggie CSA, and I think we had 10 members, and I ran it on spreadsheets. And first of all, it was insane enough at 10, right? Like
Yeah.
tracking down 10 different checks and making sure that they were paid and making sure they're the right amount and like making sure that each person got their box and I packed each person's box and all these things. Like all that was being done like semi-manually. Like it would might as well just been a sheet of paper. Honestly, it probably would have been easier because like I wouldn't have to go to my computer to deal with it. I could just write on a sheet of paper. I should have
Mhm.
provided a sheet of paper. But any CSA management software is such a time saver for farms who are doing subscriptions or CSAs. Like the number of things are incredible. I mean, some of the benefits are like, hey, it automatically sends the reminder that they have a pickup tomorrow, they have a pickup today. It has internal built-in tools for like someone, we call it vacation weeks, but like someone can take a vacation and like take a vacation for picking up their subscription and like they don't have to email you and then you have to manage it. They can cancel an order without them having to email you and then you have to manage it. You can offer like flexible payment plans that would just be absurd to do like without support of a software or e-commerce platform, right? Like, yeah, would CSAs be more accessible if like you didn't have to pay 100% upfront? Like, definitely.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
like, what CSA farm is gonna like be like, oh, I'll bill you monthly? Like, part of the beauty of CSA is that you basically have to bill people once and only have to deal with one transaction per customer per, you
Mhm.
know, distribution season. But, like, with the software, yeah, on Grown By, you can charge upfront, of course. You can also give customers the option to pay monthly or weekly, and that's completely up to the farm how they wanna handle that. So there's just a lot of flexibility and a lot of time-saving stuff built into using a software for CSA.
And I imagine too, because their bank account information is like
Yep.
saved in their account, it's not like you're sending out a monthly invoice and like
It's
crossing
getting
your
auto
fingers.
charged to their
Yeah,
payment
you're
on
you're not
file.
because I mean, you deal with that, or I've dealt with that with restaurants or
Oh gosh,
whatever,
yeah.
where it's like, you're like, oh my
Yeah, you
God,
just have
like
a
I
bunch
hope,
of bills you have to try to track down.
yeah, and you're like, "Oh, I hope they pay." You're like, "All right, this restaurant's like, 2 weeks overdue because I'm too nice to, demand a check before I leave or whatever." And then you're like, "We got invoices that are unpaid and these ones are that blah blah blah." And I can't
It's all,
imagine
like, in
trying
the
to
truck.
yeah, I can't imagine trying to do that with a CSA. But yeah, if you can give people the flexibility to, yeah, be billed monthly or, quarterly or however it is, or even, yeah, you just break up that big season-long CSA, share price into a couple of chunks. Like,
Yeah, and
not
farmers
only
can choose to do that on Grown By. You don't have to. I mean, farmers can just have it be 100% upfront. That's fine too. I mean,
yeah.
that works really well for farmers.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that flexibility and the ability to charge different installment payment plans, like, is something that comes with a thoughtfully built CSA
Mm,
software like Grown By. Like, we were like, "Hey, it would be nice to charge for a CSA in installments. Can this software help us do that?"
mhm,
Like, it was like, that's how these things get made is on Grown By is like, these are problems, these are features that we want. These are features that our member owners want, and then they get built. And it turns out us and our member owners are farmers like you.
mhm.
Like the rest of us who do direct marketing farming. In one way, we're all completely unique, and no two farms, especially direct marketing farms, are at all the same. And then in other ways, like we have similar values and want similar things about how our software supports us and saves us time and makes our life easier.
And I think too, back to the comment about, like, meeting people where they're at, oftentimes as growers, and I don't think we intend to do this way, we know what things are worth, and we know how hard it is to get something to market, and so it's almost like, you don't know how many hoops I had to jump through to get this here, and so now it's like, I'm gonna need you to jump through some hoops of, like, you gotta show up to the market, and it opens at
Mhm.
8, and it's done at noon, it's like, we're like a total side trail. I remember I helped try to start a farmer's market almost a decade ago, and me and the other guy who were starting it, we were thinking like customers and saying like, "Well, let's do it on, like, Thursday evening." People are off work, they wanna come by and shop or whatever, and all the farmers were like, "No, like, we wanna do it Saturday morning because we wanna do it in the morning. Like, we could do Thursday, but we're gonna do Thursday morning." It's like, well, nobody's gonna show up because it's Thursday morning. And obviously now, all these years later, as a farmer, I'm like, heck no, wouldn't have done a Thursday night. Like, that's, it wouldn't have worked with the way we do everything. But I digress. We oftentimes like ask our customers to jump through hoops of like, I need you to drive 45 minutes out to the farm. I need you
Mm.
to show up at the market at a particular time. And, I need you to pay for your CSA upfront, because I have all these other things that I'm trying to manage, like crop successions and wash pack and, field management and all this sort of stuff. And I don't have time to do all these other things. And so, but if we can meet our customers where we're at, theoretically, you are able to maybe convert some people who were like on the fence about supporting local food. They can. I can think on multiple occasions where it's like, I would love to join that farm CSA, but we just do not have the finances to pay
Mhm.
$600 up front for a full share. But we could do monthly payments. What's the difference between that and going to the grocery store a couple times a month? And so,
Right, exactly.
I think also you can have like a greater conversion of leads into actual sales from your farm by using something like this that can, like you said, meet customers where you're at. So we've talked a lot about like what it can do. Let's talk pricing because I've sat in those Zoom calls. I've got the phone calls from the sales reps from the other companies, and then and they give you the whole spiel, and then they like drop the price on you at the end, and you're like, oh my god, like you realize I'm like a one person operation on 1 acre, right? Like I can't pay that. What does sort of the pricing structure look like for Grown By?
Yeah, so Grown By is free to use. There's no startup costs. There's no subscription fee. Grown By is a 2% fee on each transaction is what supports the co-op. And so it's 2% plus the payment processor fees, which for credit cards, it just is about 5% total. Our 2% and about 3% for the payment processor. So that's how Grown By works right now. It works like that because we're not trying to maximize every dollar we can get out of every farmer who signs up, and that's one of the spaces where you see the co-op being a cooperative showing up that in a way that matters to the everyday user. Like, yeah, the features and the service are different, and also the pricing model is different. And our pricing model, though, is also changing. At some point in later this year or early next year, Grown will have a subscription fee, and that subscription fee will be dependent on the type of services that a customer wants, a farmer wants to use on Grown. There will remain a completely free version of Grown By that has no subscription fee. And none of these are going to have a startup cost. So I'm happy to talk. I want to talk more about that. And part of what we are is transparent. So, that's why I'm talking about how our pricing is one way right now, which is completely free and no subscription fees. And our pricing in the future, while it can still be free, for certain features, there will be a monthly subscription cost. Should I just go into why?
Yeah,
Or
I mean, I think you can touch on that quickly. I definitely want to get back to the no startup costs because I think
yeah, yeah.
that's
Yeah, that isn't
and just the fact that it's like a flat percentage to but yeah, if you just want to real quickly, depending on when this comes out, yeah, I think it'll be timely to kind of maybe get a quick understanding of why the change.
Yeah, the change is happening for a couple reasons. One of them is that it's just time for this to happen. Grown by is growing really well, and it's time for us to take another step forward in being financially independent of our funders. It's also a lot of things have changed about federal funding, and a lot of our work is with nonprofit partners to secure grants to build new features and things in Grown by, and those federal grants are not as reliable as they used to be. But to the point of the subscriptions, again, they will not be necessary depending on what you want to use Grown by for. So if you're a 2 week a year start seller, you just probably don't need to pay any of the subscription fees. Oh, but that was the third reason. I'm sorry. The third reason is that we're releasing a point of sale.
Ooh,
So you'll be able to use
nice.
Grown by at Farmers Market just like we use Square at Farmers Market. And that comes with a monthly service cost from the partner who's doing the point of sale transactions. They charge a monthly service cost for their device that you swipe on. So like we have to have a monthly subscription fee for that version of Grown by. So farms who want to use Grown by for point of sale, there will be a monthly subscription fee for using the point of sale with Grown by. So like there's like a practical, like necessary reason too. But like very big picture, I'm very excited for this because one, I can't tell you the prices they're not. We haven't decided, the board is discussing it, the members are discussing it, but it is a lot less than the other folks out there in this space, and that's on purpose. It's what we think is fair, not what we think is the most we can possibly get out of everybody. And I think the fact that there will always be a free version of Grown by that has the basics of what someone might need to use Grown by we're keeping that spirit there. Like you can still use Grown by completely for free. And then like to your point, there's no startup costs. And it costs nothing to
Mhm.
us for someone to make a Grown by account.
Yeah.
It costs us zero, there's like functionally something somewhere in like the software cloud hosting costs of like slightly more data, but
Yeah,
nothing
that might as well
functionally.
be magic. That makes no
Right,
sense to me.
exactly. It's
But
make believe. It is kind of make believe. But the idea that you need to pay $700 or $300 or $1,000 to like start an account on a software thing is absurd, and it's entirely there as a means of keeping you stuck. Making a sunk cost fallacy in your head. It's making you say yes. It's giving their salespeople the thing to pitch around and maybe offer you half off if you'll sign up today. It's a way of the entity selling that to you to like cover their butt on the staff time they invest in selling to you. It is such a like usually not necessary. Like, look, you put a down payment on a car or a house or something. Yeah, sure, you're getting like a large physical good,
yeah.
but like, it makes no sense to put a down payment on a software subscription. Like, what the hell is that? Like,
Mhm.
and if you see it, like the big ones, like you don't got to pay Netflix like the first 6 months up front. It's not a rental agreement. It's just really odd to me, and it's a pricing model that's built to benefit the person selling you the service, not you.
And
I'm
just
glad we
a
don't do it.
Yeah, and a little anecdotal piece about that, I'm trying to remain, like, as, like, a neutral third party, just like a podcast host, but obviously, like, I've already mentioned that I use Grown by, and, I guess it's my show, I can do whatever I want, but, like I said, I sat in those Zoom meetings, and usually the farm size that we like, the minimum farm size is, like, 2 acres, and we're doing and they're doing, like, at least $50,000 a year in sales, and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. I'm not there yet." I'm like, "I'm an
Yeah, I mean, our
acre."
flower farm
Eh
isn't even that. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
like, how many farms does that even mean? I mean, it's not a lot of farms.
yeah.
Like,
But, so it's like, "Alright, I'm not there yet." Like, I'd like to be, like, potentially in a few years, if I'm optimistic, maybe I'll be there, and it's like, "Oh, okay." And I'm thinking like, "Alright, deal's over." And it's like, "Well, we still think it'd be a good fit." So why don't so then it's like, "You've told me that I'm probably not a good fit for your service because I don't do enough sales, but then go ahead and, like, pitch me on the service anyways." And so it's like, "Oh,
well, I mean,
okay.
because from their
I'm
point of
good."
view, they just want your money, whether you're a good fit or not. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like the monster of, private profit motive, right? Like, it's rational, it's regional, it's logical in that world to be like, I'm going to screw the other person over because it benefits me. And
Mhm.
whether that individual person thinks that way, but like their entity is sort of structured to be like, how do we get maximum valuable value from our users at minimal cost? And that is perfectly legal. I mean, for me, that's personally questionably moral. And I just think there's other ways to do business, especially in this space. I don't know how some of the other platforms in this space like, justify their behavior to themselves. Like, how could you go to sleep at night being like, "Ah, I got $1,000 out of this small farmer today. I got this older farmer who doesn't understand how the internet works to give me $2,000 so I could build them a $50 website." I mean, the stuff that's happening in this space, and then it gets me more upset because I care a lot about farmers, and farmers do not get a good shake anywhere in our society. Like, we're 1%, and people don't understand what we're up to, and, how farmers buy it at retail and sell it wholesale. I mean, all this stuff. Like, could we just, like, when we're recreating, like, when this new sector of the economy is coming around, like e-commerce, could we just have this one not replicate the, like, exploitative, extractive economics that farmers deal with in all the other parts of the economy we deal in? Like, could we own our own e-commerce? Like, could e-commerce serve us instead
Yeah.
of serving the e-commerce owner? And yes, at Grown By it can, but I just pull my hair out. I see these folks at conferences and whatever, we have booths, and I'm just like, what? It's just so I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I think one thing, and I know we've touched on it briefly, but one thing it's like, oh yeah, you can tell like this is made for farmers is the fact that it is like it's a flat
Yeah, it's 2%.
percentage. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's 2%. And I know for me, it's especially not just because I'm a new farmer, but because I'm a new farmer who also doesn't know ultimately how they're going to end up selling. I mean, that's maybe you've been growing for 10 years and you've got your like market streams down. Maybe you're
yeah,
like, yeah, we do 2 farmers markets a week, and then we have 15 restaurants, and we're on lock. We've been doing that for 10 years. We're good. But especially as like a new grower, you're like, all right, I want to sell vegetables. It's like you got options. You've got wholesale, you've got restaurants, you've got CSA, you do local delivery, you can do on-farm sales. You have 1,000 different directions that you can go. And, and the reality of it is you don't really know which one is going to be a good fit. So you
yeah,
kind of almost start to dip your toe in a couple of them and just sort of see. And so if you just in full disclosure, like I thought we would be doing far more of our e-commerce stuff than we've ended up doing just because we
mhm,
changed markets and this new farmers market has just been phenomenally better than I thought it would be. And so like we've slowed down restaurant sales. We've obviously slowed down sales on the platform, but not because we wanted to, but just because like we physically cannot grow enough for the sales outlets that we have. But because it's just that flat 2% or 5% overall, if you include the credit card processing, that it's like I only have to pay for what I sell. I don't have this like looming monthly payment of like, oh,
right.
I'm just sinking money into this service, whether I'm really using it or not. Yeah, or if you use it for twice a year, or whatever. And so I've really appreciated that it can grow with me and it can, and so ultimately if I'm selling a ton, obviously, I'm still paying the same percentage. So then I can sort of, then the nice thing is then I can budget in that percentage on my profit margins, but then if I'm
Or
selling less, then I can get a little bit of that financial break. And so
I
I've,
mean, the thing is the 2%, like, having a 2% flat, well, like, you sell $100 on Grown By, that's $2, and, like, sure.
yeah.
If you sell $1,000,000, it's a lot more than $2. And so, like, it scales sort of negatively with the bigger the farm. And I think there's a lot to talk about that, but okay, it's 2% flat fee, but it's also in the structure of a co-op. So if I
Mhm.
were selling $1,000,000 a year on Grown By, which some farms do, I'm
Wow.
gonna become a member owner because
Mhm.
guess what happens? That 2% fee that's going into the co-op, when the co-op makes money, I'm a member owner. And if anyone's not familiar, very briefly, like the way that sort of what I call true blue cooperatives work, not like, well, I think REI kind of works this way, but not like, and we love them, God love them, the food co-ops where
Yeah.
people buy their local groceries, like those are not really this way. So like the way true blue co-op works is I am a member owner of Grown By, and when Grown By decides to make a distribution of profits, which Grown By deciding is the board that I elect, decides to make a distribution from profits. One of the places they can put those profits is like back into Grown By or paying down debt or giving a dividend to owners, which is like how the stock market sort of works. But like we're the owners. Like I'm one of the owners. And so
Mhm.
if the board decides to make a distribution of profit to the owners, that's me. And the way that they value how much distribution goes to each member owner is based on the member owners. It's this idea called patronage, the owner's patronage. And your patronage is how much you use the co op's services. So if I'm
Oh,
$1,000,000 a year farm, I'm accruing 2% of that in my patronage account, which is sort of like an IOU. And when the co-op does well and makes distributions, that IUU is this big, and the $100 farm, their IU is this big. And if they pay the same percentage to everyone, let's say they pay 50% of everyone's patronage account, well, the $2 one is $1 and the million sales is whatever, 100,000. So it all scales with itself. And, 2% flat fee for a software that is not cooperatively owned, where you have no chance at ever getting some of that 2% you pay in as a big farm would be tough. And that's why the other ones don't do that. But you can get it back. Co-op does well. The board decides to make dividends. Guess what? It goes back to us based on the amount of business we've done with the co-op. I mean, the co-op model is good. It's good. It makes sense. Things add up.
Yeah. It's so funny because it really seems like that you guys are this interesting convergence of, like, some people would call, like, antiquated ways of running a business with this, like, very new cutting edge form of commerce, on the
Yeah.
internet through
Yeah.
e-commerce. It's like patronage is literally like an dates back to antiquity.
Yeah.
And I don't know how old, the co-op model is, but I imagine it's,
Pretty old.
it's pretty old. And then but then you have something like being able to do like an e-commerce platform on an app that's on your phone. Like it's really
But it's
wild to
co-op,
see.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's cool to see that. One last thing I would be really remiss if we didn't bring it up, and I think it sort of fits with this whole theme of food access and fairness and all this sort of stuff that really seems to be at the heart of what you guys are doing. One thing that you added that we are a member of, that we've been set up in the system to be able to do it, is you guys can accept like SNAP dollars, or what used to be called food stamps. For those of you that don't know what SNAP is, you can actually accept that through Grown By. So people who are in underprivileged communities or do not have the resources to be able to fully purchase all of the necessary nutrition that they need for their family, with that supplemental nutrition program that the government, the USDA does, they can now go through their Grown By app and purchase the highest quality, local, fresh, potentially organic, certified naturally grown produce, and do it through this government assisted program.
That is correct. Yeah, we were the first platform to accept SNAP Online. We have been accepting SNAP Online as a form of payment for a number of years. There's about 70 farms in America who use SNAP Online, who can accept SNAP Online through Grown By. And this idea of direct marketing farms being able to accept SNAP, this program is one of the greatest improvements to food access, like local good food access, that this country's done in a very long time, since they made it so that direct marketing farms could accept SNAP, like in-person swipes, which happened, I don't know, maybe like 10 years ago. But yeah, SNAP Online is a great program that I would recommend farms participate in and get your authorization. And there's a whole other podcast about this whole process. But
Yeah.
yeah, we're really proud to be the first one to accept SNAP Online. We still have the vet. I know other platforms say that they do it. It's not clear to me how they can do it or how they do it. I have not seen a lot of farms have success on other platforms doing it. We're here to help you. We've been through the process. It's not like an easy process. It's still like a federal government thing. But like once you get your certification, that's what you need. Yeah, and then your customers, whether they're shopping with cash or credit card or SNAP benefits, they can buy products from you on your farm online. And I mean, the idea that someone who's shopping with SNAP can have the same, to the point of back to convenience of,
Hmm.
like, not having to be at farmer's market or not having to drive 45 minutes to pick it up. Like, the convenience factor of folks being able to shop with their SNAP benefits online for fresh local food direct from their farms is incredible. Like, if you're someone who's using SNAP or is on SNAP, like, what are the chances that you're setting aside 3 hours every Saturday to, like, go to a farmer's market? Like, maybe you're working every Saturday, so how are you gonna go to a farmer's market to use your SNAP at market? Like, Snap Online breaks down that barrier. Snap Online makes it so that you don't have to, like, go to a farmer's market booth and, like, they have to get out their special swiper for you and your special card, and so everyone around might
Yeah.
notice that you're using this program, which there's a stigma to it, which I that's a different conversation, but, like, people feel stigma around that, and that's fine. You don't have to go to the special market booth and get wood tokens that you then redeem. You can just sit on your phone like the rest of us do all the time and, like, open your Grown By app and buy stuff. Like, it is such an incredible improvement for food access. And yeah, we're very, very happy to have been the first one to accept it and happy to help farmers through that process how we can.
Yeah, and our market participates in one of those,
Uh-huh.
like the double up,
Yeah, the double up programs.
yeah, the double up programs, and I'm hoping to get the folks at
Farms
Wholesome
can
Wade.
do that too with Snap Online. You can do double up programs through Snap Online on Grown By. So
Oh,
customers
that's
can come in
awesome.
and basically pay half
Oh,
or
that's
whatever your
that's
program is.
yeah,
So
because I was gonna say, like, I love the fact that we can do the double up
yep,
program, in
yep.
our
Snap Online
market,
can do
but,
double up bucks too.
that's yeah, that's really cool. Because what I was getting at was that, we're hoping that this summer, we're wanting to, now that we're, like, settled, here on our farm, like, we live here now, everything like that, we wanna try and start, like, doing more on-farm sales. We wanna start
Yeah,
to be able to get people here, if it means I don't have to drive to a restaurant on a Tuesday and I can just stay here,
exactly.
and do that, then we want to. And obviously, like a lot of farms, most of us are not urban farms. Most of us are not suburban farms. We're in like rural areas, which are ironically enough, rural areas that are surrounded by farmland and food production are also food deserts
Hmm.
because, most of us are not selling to our neighbors. We're
Yeah,
trucking it off to, either some like massive purchaser or, third party, whatever, or we're trucking it to a high end restaurant in an urban center or we're taking it to a farmer's market or whatever. And so, but we're wanting to be able to fill that niche of being able to sell to our local community around us. There's a ton of people that drive by that frankly probably have no idea that we're actually even a farm. And
right.
so I don't know what percentage of our community in our rural area is participates in the SNAP program, but I imagine in some of the surrounding cities, it's probably a pretty substantial amount. And so to be able to not only do on-farm sales, but then to utilize the point of sale and I guess now, yeah, saying that do the double up bucks through Grown By with SNAP recipients that, yeah, now we can actually like feed our community and help those who are not able to have full access to super good local food. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about that. So, like, obviously, we're still going to participate in the program at the market. It's,
Hmm. Yep.
it would be crazy to just be like, no, we're going to do it on our own. But,
It's
but
just more
now,
options for your
yeah, it's
customers.
more options, and I will say from going through the process, it wasn't too terrible. I worked with Market Link
Yep.
and sort of the grant program that they have. I don't know if it's still available or not to
Yes, it
do
is.
that,
Yep.
but yeah, they made it insanely easy. It's like it was like a phone call and a few documents that had to get filled out and scanned and signed and so on and so forth.
Yep.
It was super easy to do it. And so if you're a new farmer or you're an experienced farmer, it's a wonderful program to be a part of so that we can do that. Because the reality of it is like we are also small businesses and most of us are not trying to like get rich farming. Like we wouldn't be farming if
Right.
we were trying to get rich. And
Right.
so, but we also know like we have to charge a realistic price in order to stay afloat so that we can pay our
Hmm.
own bills. And so to be able to still charge a fair price for what this super awesome, nutritious, fresh, great tasting stuff is or beautiful stuff is, but then also to not exclude those who probably need it more than the affluent people living in an urban area who can afford to buy it from Whole Foods or whatever. It really is like a win-win all the way around. And so, yeah, we could probably do a whole podcast just on Snap and the connection with Snap and kind of the local food movement. But I was really happy when you guys kind of made that live and we were able to jump on board with that program.
Yeah, it's a great one. I'm so glad we can do that.
I think we pretty much covered just about everything I wanted to talk about. I guess real quick, one last thing that I think is really cool that you guys have is you have like the explore page
Hmm.
on the site. So if you go to the app or you go to the app, if you download it on your phone, or if you go to the website,
Just
is it,
grownby.com.
yeah, grownby.com, you'll see like the explore page which brings up sort of a map and you can see and like in your area or really kind of anywhere where there's grown by farms, but you can actually pull up and see what farms are in your area. Are people like using this? Are they actually like finding farms in their local area? What's the benefit and sort of how is it benefiting the farms through that explore page?
Yeah, I mean, it's there because people can go to Grown By, customers go to Grown By and look for something to eat. They look for a farm to support. And so that is what that page is designed for. It has a lot of nice filters. People can filter by accept Snap or not. People can filter by carrots. People can filter by beef. So people can filter by like it delivers to me or not. So there's a lot of different useful tools for that page. But for most farms, they're going to be sending their customers direct to their farm's website But as far as like grownby.com, like the main landing page, there's the explore feature to click around. And then if the person who's going to grownby.com has their locations services enabled, it'll also show them this farms near them
Mhm.
by default. So
Another added benefit of the explore page that I don't think was ever the intention of it, but, I've used it to the benefit as being a new farmer. Oftentimes, you don't know what to charge for something,
yeah,
and so I oftentimes will "Oh, okay, so yeah, I just did this last week. We harvested, like, our first real harvest of, like, red vein sorrel to take to the market," and I'm like, "I have
sure,
no idea what to charge for this." Like, it's like this small dainty green, like, it's definitely gonna be a more premium product,
yeah,
but, like, is this, like, $1 an ounce, or is this $10 a pound? Like, I don't know. And so
right,
literally, like, I got on the app and I just typed in like sorrel, red vein sorrel, and I think I like zoomed way out so it was the whole country.
yeah,
And then you can find other people, other farms who have it on their store that's live, and you can kind of get an idea of what people are charging. And so totally probably not the intention of it, but it's a good use of that tool as well.
yeah. There's a lot of good ways to use that tool. It's a good idea, by the way.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I think that more or less wraps up everything that I wanted to talk about. I even if you just listen for the motivation behind like the ethics of why you guys do what we do and why all of us as growers do what we do, I think it was well worth it. But there's a couple of little like lightning round questions that I ask, even though we didn't really get into much of your growing and sort of your farming experience. One question that I always asks our guest is, who are like the four people on your farm Mount Rushmore?
I don't know if I'm gonna get to 4. I mean, my grandpa, my great grandpa, I don't know. And there's a lot of farmers I like, but they're not like a Mount Rushmore. I mean, man, like I'm not
Yeah.
gonna get up here and like I don't particularly like any of the like big influencer farmers. I don't particularly care for the guys who write and sell a lot of books about how to farm. Every farm is so contextual and such.
Mhm.
I don't understand that sort of idea. Like, "Oh, this farmer had success doing this, so I'm gonna try to do that." Like, well, your space is totally different. So I don't know. I mean, my grandpa, my great grandpa, my grandpa, and then there's a lot of contemporary people who I know and farm around that are excellent, but it's more of like a personal, like I like them.
That's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Another question, if you could give one piece of advice to a rookie or aspiring farmer, what would that be?
I do talk to people a lot who want to farm or think that they want to farm, and
Think that they want to farm. Yeah,
yeah, well, I think that's important because they know that I farm and like I bridge, I'm also into the craft beer space and I was in the entrepreneur space for a while. So like there's people who like don't know farming, but I'm their connection. So they ask me and they'll ask me, silly off the wall things I have nothing, I have no business knowing about. But then also they'll be like, hey, I'm thinking about this or that. And then also just other people who farm. But I don't know, it's hard. Like it's really hard. I think to become a farmer almost always takes a high degree of sacrifice. My wife and I, despite all of our privileges and head start and things that we have and had when we were starting, you know, we bought our farm and there's no house and no electricity, and no running water, no well, no driveway. There was an old barn and like we parked a camper on it.
Wow.
And I mean, that was a lot and very difficult to do. And then talk to other farms, other folks who farm, one of the trade-offs, okay, one of the trade-offs is most folks who want to farm, you can get good land, but you can afford good land, but no house or
Mhm.
dilapidated house. Or you can get a place that has a livable house, but the land isn't very good. But to have a place that has great land, a good location, all these things, and like a move-in ready house is very rare.
And even if you do, you're probably gonna pay
Yeah, and then how are you
out.
gonna
Yeah,
afford that?
yeah.
So it's just like that's one of the things. I mean, I think one is it's very hard to farm without making a major sacrifice, and I think people underestimate that. I think people think they can keep doing what they're doing and more or less live the same life and then also become a farmer on the side. And I don't know. I don't know like how long or how much that can happen. Like until you have to choose something. And I also think that it's very important to know that it's going to take years to learn how to farm where you're farming, how you want to sell, what you want to grow, if you want to farm. I think people talk about like farmer burnout and stuff. And I think it's more about like Well, I think that's real. That's definitely a real thing, but it might just be more about like it takes 5 to 10 years to know if you want to farm, like of farming. And you're like, oh no, this is still fitting well. I'll keep doing it. I just the last thing I'll say, this third piece of advice, I guess, is there's no way to learn it except for by doing it. I appreciate that there's a lot of people doing workshops and teaching classes about, how to straw bale garden or,
Mhm,
grow 500 pounds of potatoes, in a square foot. And I think there's value in a lot of that. But also, like the way you learn to farm is by farming. You don't learn to farm by paying someone $1,000 for a series of online workshops. I think those can be helpful, but there's no way to learn it except for by doing it. And a lot of those lessons are going to be really hard. I was talking to a friend today who they had a terrible lambing season, and it's because the hay that they were feeding the sheep when the sheep were getting pregnant wasn't the right nutrient density or whatever. And so they like lost some mamas and they lost a bunch of lambs this year. And it's like, shit, that's really, really hard.
mhm.
And yes, the world, like, someone knew that that was a thing, but like, unless you know that was a thing, then that's just sometimes you learn lessons the hard way too in farming. So I don't know. It takes time. So what were the three? It takes a long time to learn. The only way to learn is to do it. And you probably have to make sacrifices that are tough. So I guess none of that is very inspirational. I think it's realistic though. In
Yeah,
my experience and experiences of folks like me, like those are pretty three consistent things about farming. And then just the last one I'll leave you with is that one of the best farmers I know, I guess Mary Jo Forboard, that's her name. She should be on my Mount Rushmore. But she said that, she's been farming almost her whole life and knows a lot about farming, is a great farmer. And I don't know, I don't have an exact quote, but she introduced the idea to me that like a truly great farmer knows that they don't know everything
mm,
and knows that they don't have the answer. So beware, she didn't say this, but so that I take that to mean like, well, first of all, you can never know everything, so you're always going to have to keep learning and you're going to make mistakes. And then also, when you meet someone who claims to know everything or says this is the way to do it, they just have stopped their learning journey. There's definitely ways to quote unquote do it better or more holistically or healthier or what, like there's no perfecting this. So just be aware that like when you're getting started, you're not going to make a perfect farm. There is no perfect farm.
mm.
You're not going to be a perfect farmer. I don't know. Boy, I could go on and on. There's a lot of lessons to be learned in farming that are different than what a lot of life teaches us these days. But it's a valid, incredibly important pursuit. I mean, I wish if you look back on the history of the United States, even in the 1900s, like during that century when there were like 30, 40, 50% of Americans
Mhm.
living and working on farms, like it's very different. That's like when the co-ops came to be because there was enough socialist populist farmers who could like impact, you know, society level policy making, for example. I mean, we're so small now, it doesn't matter what we think. Like we're just a pawn. Like, you gotta say the farmers like you, but you don't have to do shit for the farmers because they're 1% of the voting population. Who cares?
Yeah.
So I think, I don't point. I'm not going all over the place, but people who want to farm should try to farm, and we should make it as easy as possible for them to try and to learn. And a successful venture in learning how to farm might be to learn that you don't want to farm.
Mm. Yeah, and I've had sort of had those thoughts. I haven't said it out loud on the show yet, but obviously the whole point of the Rookie Farmer podcast is to
Right.
like inspire and educate, new and aspiring growers. The people
Hmm.
who are like, maybe they just watch YouTube videos and they dream about it or whatever. And it's like, all right,
Hmm.
we want to paint like the most realistic picture possible. And it's funny, now all these episodes in, I almost kind of wonder, I'm like, we may have made more people not want to farm than we've actually will convert people into farmers just because, yeah, I just want to be able to paint the most realistic picture that we can of what this is going to be instead of saying like, here's how I made $150,000 on a quarter acre or, whatever it
Uh
may
huh.
be, which
Yeah.
is
Well,
like,
that gets a lot of clicks, Alec. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
clicks, clicks are
it gets
so
a,
important.
yeah, it gets, and it's like, there's not to say that from those guys, there's not principles and
Yeah.
techniques and
Yeah.
sales
There's
strategies
value
to
in
do that.
there.
Yeah, there's value in that, but it's like, but that's not going to teach you how to actually be a farmer, but it's like when I get on here and be like, I made $500 at the farmer's market last week. Woohoo. It's like,
Yeah.
hopefully we can pay rent this month.
Right.
That's like, I mean, that's like the real reality that it is. So, but yeah, Eric, you have an open policy anytime you want to come on and just get any sort of farm stuff off your chest, we'll have you on to do that. But thank you so much for both just inspiring me and kind of reiterating and reinforcing like the big why about why I'm doing this and just giving me that encouragement. But also thank you so much for what you and the rest of the team over at Grown By do. I've really appreciated it. I hope to utilize the platform more as the farm is growing, and I wish you guys the best with the expansion. I'm excited about the POS. I we'll chat more about that offline. But
Yeah.
if anybody wants more information, whether about you or about Grown By, what's the best place for people to find that?
Yeah, I mean, grownby.com is grown by. Find a lot of stuff there. You can email me at Eric, ERIC, at farmgenerations.coop. And that's a great way to reach me. I mean, I'm on the internet. If you look up Eric Sannerud, you can find me. But yeah, grownby.com. That's the place to go.
Awesome, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you for sitting tight for that one. A little bit longer than the normal episode length that we do, but Eric just had so much great stuff to talk about. The wise sage advice that he gave us, and a bit of a reality check, if I'm being honest with you, about the struggles and the challenges of being a small scale farmer. That's nothing new to those of you guys who have listened to the show or any of you guys who have been farming for any length of time. But it's nice to just hear it from somebody else, hear a different perspective, and understand that this is not for the faint of heart. We don't do this because we're trying to get rich, and we don't do it for the lavish lifestyle, but because there is this deep, deep thing within our soul that we long to feed people, we long to make the earth a better place, and we long for healing both in our bodies and for the people that we're feeding. So huge thank you to Eric. I could do 10 hours worth of podcast with him, just talking about the philosophy of market farming and all of the things that are involved in that. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we can talk about him and his wife's flower farm in an upcoming episode. If that's something you guys would be interested in, hit us up, send us a DM, send us a comment on this and say if you want more Eric. I'll see what I can do. But as always, huge thank you to Diego and the whole crew over at Modern Grower for making the show possible. We couldn't do any of this without you guys. You guys make us look good, make us sound good, and keep the ball going. So thank you so much. And if you need tools, you need soft goods, all of the things to be an effective market gardener, things like quick hoops or your quick plant landscape fabric, row cover, Jang seeders, paper pot transplanters, microgreen seeds, and so much more, including the Sumi Soaker. Go over to shop.moderngrower.com. Go check out all of the amazing kit that they have over there. I use it every single day on my farm, and I know you will like it as well. So go support this amazing company. And just a reminder that we believe in value for value, which means that if you find any value in the content that we're putting out, please consider kicking some of that value back our way in the form of a donation. We never want to charge for the show. We never want to make some sort of a freemium or pay to play or premium subscription program that we have to do to put out this content. And we can only do that with your help. So you can go to Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal, look for at Crop Culture Farm, or just search Crop Culture Farm and send us $1, send us $5, send us $50. Whatever you feel like this content is worth, we ask you to partner with us and keep this show going, keep it on the air, and getting amazing episodes out to you every single week. So thank you. And once again, I am your illustrious host, Alex Smith, and you've been listening to the Rookie Farmer Podcast. And until next time, blessings and peace.